Hello everyone, Mr. Stevens here again. The next point we're going to be talking about in this video is adjacent angles, and specifically we're going to talk about adjacent complementary angles and adjacent supplementary angles. So you don't need to write everything on this slide again, but on your notes now, give ourselves a new heading, adjacent angles, and we're going to talk about exactly what an adjacent angle is. Basically, what a pair of adjacent angles is any two angles that share a common arm. That is, there's an angle here and an angle here, and this arm is part of both of the angles. That makes these two angles adjacent. There are a couple of special types of adjacent angles though. When two adjacent angles make up a whole 90 degrees, okay, this whole angle from this line to this line is 90 degrees, and it has been split into two angles A and angle B. These two angles are adjacent angles, but because the whole angle is 90 degrees, they're a special kind of adjacent angle called adjacent complementary angles. Okay, and I want you to write this down and draw this diagram for yourself without my scribbling on it, because this line here is very important for us. We're going to make use of this very often. If we have an overall 90-degree angle, we know that these two individual angles need to add up to 90 degrees. Now, if there's more than one angle here, more than two angles here, sorry, three or even more, this is still true. All of these angles add up to 90 degrees, and that can still be very useful for us. It's just in this situation, we don't call them complementary angles, okay? A complementary angle is when there's only two. But this can still be very useful. Knowing that a set of angles has to add up to 90 degrees is something that we're going to make a lot of use of. All right, in the same way that two complementary angles that together make 90 degrees are called complementary, two adjacent angles that together make 180 degrees are a special kind of angle called supplementary angles. That's when two angles, angle G and angle H, add together to give 180 degrees. And in the same way as with the 90-degree angles, it's possible to have more than two here. Again, in this case, we have three. Only the special case of two angles is called supplementary, but even in this case, the fact that all the angles add up to 180 degrees is something that's very useful and that we are going to use in this unit. Okay, so I would like in your notes to have everything that's on both of these slides, because this is very important for us going forward. Let's look at a couple of examples together. We need to work out the value of angle A and the value of angle B. I'm going to start with angle A. We know that angle A plus 30 degrees has to equal 90 degrees. Now, if you guys remember back to when we did equations, if we want to find out what just angle A is by itself, we need to do the opposite operation here to this 30 and subtract it from both sides. And if we start with 90 and we take away 30, what do we have left? 60 degrees. Now, we can also use this same principle to figure out what B is. We know that angle B plus 90 degrees has to equal a full revolution. We talked about a full revolution in our last video. And we can use the same process to find out what just B is. Angle B is 270 degrees. Right, so let's have a go at this next one. I want you guys to start writing this one down now. This is a we do question. We know that this whole angle is 80 degrees. So that means that these two angles that are adjacent to each other have to equal 80 degrees. P plus 30 has to equal 80. So now the same way we did it when we were looking at equations, we subtract 30 from both sides, so we end up with P by itself. 80 minus 30 is 50 degrees. P is 50 degrees. Now with a straight line, remember the total value of a straight line is 180 degrees. I'm going to get you guys to pause the video and have a go at this one for yourself. And now hopefully you've attempted this question on your own. Y plus 37 should equal 180 degrees. So to get angle Y by itself, we need to subtract 137 from both sides, and we should be left with 143 degrees. Alright guys, now we went through that last video, and now this video we've been through this point of the success criteria. We've looked at adjacent, complementary and supplementary angles, and we've used them to calculate angles we don't know. In the next video we're going to deal with these last 2 points. So now you're going to have a couple questions to do to help practice the skills we've learned in this video. So if you can get started on them now, that would be great. Thanks guys.